Coach Justin with Nova Ryu BJJ, and I'm super excited about today's episode here with the great Professor Cindy Hales. Thank you, my friend, for being on.
Of course,
appreciate
thank
it. Looking forward to what you have to say about BJJ and MMA and the technique you're going to be showing later. For those of you who don't know, Cindy is part of the vaunted Dirty Dozen, so one of the first 12 American women to get their black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which that's pretty cool, and she's a legend in the local Pacific Northwest Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA scene. And with that introduction, do you want to say a little bit about yourself and what brought you to Jiu-Jitsu?
Hi, I'm Cindy, and so I saw Jiu-Jitsu. Well, I got interested in Jiu-Jitsu seeing the UFC, Royce Gracie on the UFC, not knowing what that was, right? I saw him doing Jiu-Jitsu in the gi in UFC and was like, well, I need to learn that. And then a few years later, I saw Marcelo's school in Tacoma. He had a school in Tacoma and it was on my bus route. And I was like, there's that thing that I need to learn that I saw. And so I went into Marcelo's school and signed up, and that was in 2000. And that's how I started Jiu-Jitsu.
Did you have any combat sport
background?
You played racquetball.
I played racquetball. I played racquetball as a kid. I, played like regular kid sports in the 70s, just basic soccer, basketball, softball, right? Nothing serious. I did racquetball because I moved around a lot, and that was something I could do. And then didn't really play. I tore my ACL when I was like 13 playing racquetball.
Oh, wow.
And so then I didn't really do any sports. I was like a punk rock kid, and then my roommate, when I was at kind of after college, or right afterwards, showed me the UFC tape, and I was like, I need to learn that. It was magical.
Okay. So
super random. It was super random. This guy was like, look at this thing, and I was like, had no reference point for it. It was like that early day UFC,
sure,
right, on the VHS tapes. Brought the VHS tape to our house, and I saw it, and I was like, I gotta learn that, and I didn't know where you would learn it, and then one day it was just there. I was like, oh.
So it wasn't necessarily a draw for like the self-defense aspect. It was really just like the sport of MMA and the jiu-jitsu in that context.
Dude, just seeing Royce Gracie, who seemed much smaller and weaker, winning. And I was like, I probably need to learn that because I'm smaller and weaker, right? And like that, I was like, I had just never seen that kind of style of fighting.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah,
I don't think anyone had. But I didn't know that in that time. I was just like, I don't know what he's doing at all. You have reference for someone punching someone. But arm bars and triangles, I didn't have any understanding of that. I didn't know about wrestling even, right? So I was just like, I want to learn that. I didn't know where you would learn it. And then I just saw, there's a place that teaches that thing. It was literally like 5 years later or something.
Huh.
Right? And I went in and instantly was like, fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And pretty much trained every day since that point almost.
What was that like in those early days training at Marcelo's? Because he's another, he's a name in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, he was the only guy really, only black belt around really. And I went in there, it was like mostly like Army guys, military, because he was doing military contracts, right? And it was in Tacoma. And, law enforcement, and then just some other random martial arts people, right? And I was just like, this is awesome. I loved it from the moment I went in. Marcelo was great. I remember like him showing me key lock and like totally selling it and like, playing along and totally getting me into it and making me think I was winning and being awesome. And yeah, I literally fell in love with it.
So none of the trepidations. I know that's something that gets brought up a lot by people who are maybe just starting jiu-jitsu, like the close physical contact aspect, or like the claustrophobia, being stuck under people inside control. I'm sure everybody experiences that, but it didn't put you off enough. You were all in from the jump.
Yeah, I was all in from the jump. I think because I'm the youngest child, and I say that probably helps me in jiu-jitsu, right? I was beat up a lot as a youngest child.
Older siblings,
siblings, and like I was very used to being on the bottom, being crushed, and I was like, this is an opportunity to not have that happen.
Got it.
Right? And so I was just like, I remember seeing that guy winning, and he was getting crushed. That can be you.
Sure.
Right? And I was like, I'm all in. And then it was just super fun. I really enjoyed like the fact that you could just we would just went in and you just started sparring.
Right.
Right? Immediately. Like showed you some moves, and then you're like, let's go. Right? They were just like, go. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. Right?
And those were the rough and tumble days, like that.
That was the rough and tumble days. It was, it's just not very many people. It was schools were pretty gross.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Kind of the dirty gym, and it was all guys.
I was just gonna ask, was it
all
intimidating at all being the only female in the room most of the time, or all the time?
It was different, but I think I was often in spaces like that, right? I feel like I was kind of used to situations with a bunch of dudes. So it was like, okay, it's another situation with a bunch of dudes, but I really want to learn this, so I'm gonna learn it, right? And like Marcelo was very like, kind of took me under his wing. I think because I was like, I was there all the time, and I was like, I'm gonna learn this, and I was a crazy person, right? I was very dedicated.
Sure.
And I think he was like, oh, this girl is very dedicated, and he would take me around to his other schools and let me train, and most people were very nice to me. You know, there's problems, but overall, I'm still here, right? I'm still here. He gave me off to a great start. He ended up going back to Brazil, right? And
How long were you with him before?
A year.
Okay.
Right, a year, and then I moved over and started training with Rodrigo.
Lopez.
Right, Lopes, yeah. So he was, after Marcelo left, I kind of trained at Police Academy and just kind of around, like looking for places to train that weren't very many people. But I like bumped into someone, and they're like, oh, come up to Firehouse, Ballard Firehouse.
Okay, yeah.
Right, Mamazino.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We have someone told me, like, there's a girl up there, she can beat you up. And I was like, okay, I'll be there. When is it? Tomorrow? Okay, I'll be there.
Who was that?
Michelle.
Oh, Wagner.
Michelle.
Yeah.
Wagner, right? So someone was already started talking shit, and then it was like, okay, I went up there, and then I was training with them more.
Okay.
Right?
And that was your home for a while?
Yep. Till now.
I think...
Right, with Rodrigo. When he gave me his black belt, I taught, until I had this school, I was at Gracie Baja, so, Mamazino gave me the black belt, but I was really training with Rodrigo. Rodrigo was the guy. He was the guy that was doing most of the stuff.
He was my first coach as well. He was, he taught for a little while when he was a brown belt still. It was called the Tap Out Wrestling Gym down in Kent.
I think I remember this. Yeah.
So he was. It was kind of almost a fly by night. It was only there for a couple of months. Rodrigo didn't own it, but he was teaching there. So I got to train under him for a while, and then after they closed down, I think it was Joel Townsend.
Yeah.
Opened a school down by like the IKEA in Renton. It was like in a warehouse district. That's where I think that was the first time I met and enrolled with you. And so I want to tell the story.
I totally remember this. I remember that gym when Joel had it down there. Yeah, I totally remember. And then I think it just went away.
Yeah.
Like one day, I think Rodrigo was going to go and teach there once, and I was like going with him, and then we went there, and the school was just gone.
Like so many early schools.
Like it was just gone, right? They were like renting it from Karate Guy or something, and they went up, and then it was just like, oh, everything is gone. What is going on?
Yeah, no, that was such a common thing. But I do remember, because you were like you were definitely, I think, the first woman I rolled with in jiu-jitsu. I can't remember if you were a blue belt at the time, but I do remember that I got in mat with you, we slap bump, we started rolling, you swept me, you triangle choked me, and almost put me out. And it was prior to that, I'd been a karate guy, and I was trying to incorporate jiu-jitsu into my karate game for, thinking that I would do MMA at some point. And very piecemeal, okay, well, I'll just learn a couple of moves. And then I do remember it was an epiphany moment for me after that. I was like, oh no, this is an endeavor. I have to commit to learning the entire thing.
All of it, yeah.
So I owe you a debt of gratitude, because it was such an eye opener. I was like, this really works. If you're applying it as a system, and it was so cool. So thank you. I definitely wouldn't say that on camera. That was
awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Because it committed me to the path that I've been on. Jiu-jitsu is a huge part of my life. So that was, I think, a seminal moment for me. So thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, good. I'm glad I could be there.
But okay, so you trained with Rodrigo, and then you opened up your own school at some point.
Yeah, so I was trained with Rodrigo, got my black belt, Rodrigo Mamazina, then I trained at Gracie Baja, right? For a while I was training at Ivan's and with Eric Dahlberg.
Oh, sure.
Right, when I was doing more MMA. So I was doing that, right? But I was still training Diaz, Rodrigo. I was still I was a black belt by then, but just training, and then I opened a school in Rainier Brewery for a little bit. Right, I had a school in Rainier Brewery. I actually subletted from a capoeira school.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
From Triesco. And so and Rodrigo had actually had a school there prior, right?
Yep.
Okay, and then I shut that one down, came back and taught. I actually moved to Bellevue, had a school in Bellevue for a while, and then shut the school down and went back, and I started teaching at Gracie Baja Kirkland. Okay. Right? And I ran Gracie Baja Kirkland for 7 or 8 years. Right? And then left there, and now I have here.
Got it.
So that's kind of the condensed version.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
The fast forward version of schools. But up to blue belt, I was with Marcelo, and then from there, with Gracie Baja. It wasn't Gracie Baja initially as it is now.
Right.
It was Montezino. I think for a hot second it was maybe Half, but I don't. But then Montezino was Half.
Yeah.
Right, and then it switched over to Gracie Baja, but it wasn't really like the Gracie before Gracie Baja became like the big Gracie Baja that is today. I would say.
Yeah.
Right, really like solidified as a thing.
Yeah.
Right, it was a little. They used the Taz more.
Right.
I would call it the Taz era.
Yeah.
Right, where they had the Taz logo.
Yep. That was a different thing.
And then Rodrigo, transitioned to like really the Gracie Baja, and that's what I was under them.
Okay.
Right, still get like my belts under them.
Got it. I mean, you're unaffiliated now.
Unaffiliated.
You are a Ronin Academy.
My own little thing.
That's awesome.
My own little thing. It's been nice.
Well, to go back then to some of the earlier years, I think if I remember correctly, like just because of the lack of women in the competitive scene, when you started competing, you were doing some matches against guys.
Dude, I did a couple. Yeah. I think my first, Marcelo had like a smoker, like an in-house thing, and I went against it's like some guy from the team. Right? He like basically, camel clutched me. I was like, I don't even know what this is. And it was like, dude, his family was there, my family was there, right? It's like, dude, no one wants to lose.
Sure.
And it was like, I just was like, did I join a gang? What is this? I didn't really understand what was happening because it was Marcus Suarez. You've heard that name?
Yeah.
Old Carlson guy. Like, he was there with people, and Marcelo was there with people, and it was like, I was like a white belt. So I had no idea. It was just in this dumpy ass gym, right? And they had a ring, and they were like yelling in Portuguese, and like, you're like, what is going on? Because no one really knew what was going on.
Right.
Then no one really knew. Right? You kind of were learning some moves, but no one really knew what was going on. I don't feel like
the politics from Brazil.
The politics,
we
really, very many moves at that point. Right?
Like, De La Hiva wasn't even a thing.
No, it wasn't. Half guard was barely a thing.
Right.
And like people were like I just like saw a thing from the bus stop, started to take some classes. Now I was at this thing late at night, like in a ring with a bunch of people screaming in Portuguese. And like some white belts like fighting it out that I don't think are really understanding why these guys are like mortal enemies. Right? And you kind of get that sense like no one really here knows what is going on, but everyone's just trying really hard. So we all just try. I feel like that's what we just all tried really, really hard to do our best.
Sure.
Our best interpretation of whatever was being shown to us.
When you were competing then, like right away, so like it wasn't years of training later. You were competing in jiu-jitsu.
But this was not like a competition. This was like
dank basement. This is punk
dank basement. 180-pound guy from your own team.
Yeah.
Right. He doesn't want to lose in front of his wife.
Right.
Like I have no idea what's going on. Right. So we had that, and then I remember like Joel Townsend had like some like little tournaments that like. One at like All Star Fitness. He was like a general manager and just like ran it in the aerobics room, but just didn't really tell anyone.
Right.
No, we just won't tell anyone it's a tournament, but it was a tournament, right? So it's like those kind of things.
So looking back on that now, like having gone through that, do you look back on it as a good thing, or is it like a fond memory?
It's just a thing. It's part of it. It's just part of it, right? It's part of the evolution of where it was to where it is now. Was what I think is really incredible because it went from that to Jeff's tournaments to Revolution.
Right.
Tournaments with like 3,000 people.
Professionally run, huge.
Right. So totally, like I was at the first Revolution, right? Just probably like 50 people or something.
Yeah.
Right, and that was like the amazing tournament.
Right.
The like super awesome tournament that was a real tournament, and just like it is now.
Yeah.
The super awesome tournament that's a real tournament. You still have that whole gradation from quasi punk rock thing. Right, which I'm all for that. That was like it's a great story.
Yeah.
Right, it was a great like introduction into some of it, but it's like as a business person, I'm glad it's not that anymore.
No, I agree. I think for me, and it sounds like we came from maybe not similar punk rock scenes, but like that's where I was growing up was like punk rock music scene, playing in bands and that sort of thing. And part of the draw of jiu-jitsu early on for me was like, going and setting up shows in some warehouse and playing on a building. It was not a big building. That was a really cool thing. People are wearing all their patched up leather jackets, and then jiu-jitsu, people are setting up these ad hoc shows with all the patched up gis, and I was like, well, this feels like home. This totally feels like a thing that I can relate to. I am glad now that I own the academy that it's not set up that way anymore. It's more viable as a business pursuit.
Yeah.
But I think early on, at least for me, that was a big draw.
Dude, it was fun. I wouldn't have probably engaged with it as much, right? It was like very easy to go from, because I was like in Olympia being a punk rock kid.
Yeah.
And then moved to Tacoma and then just started doing that. And it's like, oh, pretty much the same thing, right? Different, like being guy spaces and stuff. Oh,
right.
You know, punk rock shows.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. It's the same kind of douchebag.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I'm like, oh, this is very familiar and like a little edgy and everything, you know, so I like that part of it, but like I look back and I'm like, that was ridiculous.
Sure. Yeah. Well then what segued you from jiu-jitsu comp to MMA? Because you started jiu-jitsu first and then maybe kind of retired from that and did MMA second, is that right?
Well, I just did it because I think there was just I felt like there wasn't much jiu-jitsu for me, right? There wasn't a lot of tournaments. I didn't have a lot of money because I was a punk rocker, right? I didn't have a lot of money to pay to go place it, to like go to tournaments. I went to some tournaments. I won some big tournaments, and then I was like, well, I won those, right? What else should I do? And there was like a little more, I don't know if it's true, but in my mind then it was like, oh, you can go do MMA. There's more opportunity. You don't have to pay. They'll kind of pay you. Or at least they'll get you there.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to pay to get there.
Sure.
Right? And, you know, so I started doing that. And I had some success and losses at that. But I always kind of liked the jiu-jitsu stuff. You know, I always kind of kept doing the jiu-jitsu stuff. There just wasn't that much stuff going on. Right? There wasn't like that much tournaments. I would do them, but I wasn't like going where it was like, oh, well, I don't know if I just, well, now I'm like, you just weren't motivated enough to like go and figure out how to go to every single tournament, right? Like, you know, because like 2 years ago I went to like 12 tournaments or something, right? You just like flew and go to all the tournaments and do the circuit, but like back then I don't feel like it wasn't even that really like situated, right? IBJJF wasn't that even like what it is today. None of this was what it was today.
Or ADCC or
I went to ADCC in 2007. It was the second year they allowed girls. So for the beginning of it, they didn't allow girls.
Right. Yeah.
Then I think 2005 they allowed girls, and Gracie Baja kind of pushed forward Kira.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, and then 2007 was in New Jersey, which was a bummer. And I got in. And I had a neck surgery and just came off of a neck surgery.
Wow.
Right? Had been out for a year, and then I got in on Ivan helped me get in because he knew the promoter, right? And I had a good name because I had won some things, and I was just coming back, and so he got me in, and I got in, and I lost first round to the girl who ended up winning, right? And I lost on a couple points. It was the year they had like no points first 5 minutes, and then points.
Oh, right.
Right? So I got to do that. I got to do some like cool tournaments. I did like Grappler's Quest when it was like, right? That used to be a big thing. And I did like my first no-gi tournament ever was like a super fight, like an 8-girl super fight for that. Right? I went to Las Vegas and I actually won. I beat Ghazi Parman in the finals, and that was like a kind of a hot mess match. Right? There was a little commotion in that. But like Felicia O was there. Who else? There was a bunch of good girls. Right? So
when you were going into those matches, Ghazi and Felicia, because those were both big names.
Yeah.
For you going into those, I mean, you had a name too, but
not really. Like I said, that was my first tournament.
First big tournament. Yeah.
I was just like a random person.
You weren't the Cindy Hales.
I was not supposed to win. I know that.
So when you were going into those matches, as far as your mindset, were you like, oh, okay, this is just an opportunity to go against this big name? Or you were like, hey, this is just another person, another day at the office? What did that feel like? I was like, dude, I'm gonna go mash people. Yeah.
And I had the neck injury then, and I was just, I was like training with a bunch of killers, and I was like, dude, I can win this, right? No one knows who I am, but I can win this. So I like went in with that mindset, and dude, I won. I know that, and it was like a commotion because it was pretty much like Ghazi was supposed to win.
Yeah.
Right? She was like with the promoter, like part of the promotion, and you have that, and it's like it was kind of an upset, but it was cool. Right? But I always had like just some injuries, right? Because right after that I went and had a neck surgery.
That was like a cervical fusion?
Yeah, I had a fusion right after that. Like I probably shouldn't have done that, right? Tournament. But, then came back right after that, came off the recovery and then went right to ADCC, right? Lost ADCC, and then I think right after that I fought Megumi in Japan.
Yeah.
Right? So, I just like because I started kind of late. I started jiu-jitsu at 26, right? I wasn't like a kid athlete.
Sure.
You know, I was a kid athlete, but I didn't have anyone pushing me to do things, right? I was just doing what I did. I just did what I did, and so it was like, yeah, I think like I was just always like trying to get like the best match at like I would love Megumi. I was like, Megumi is the best girl.
You were a fan of hers.
She is literally the best girl in the world. I want to fight that girl.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have a lot of fights in me. I'm going to chase that girl. And one of my friends was fighting for Smack Girl, and they were like, who could beat Megumi? And she was just like, Cindy can beat Megumi. And that's how I got the match. Right? I knew Josh, and Josh, like, you know, that they did the match at 115, so it was like I went way down in weight to get the match. I was not a 115er.
Right, so yeah, what was that weight cutting process like?
It was crazy because I had fought in New Zealand, and I fought as a 140er or a 145er.
Wow.
Won that, and then came and like in like 6 weeks or something cut down and made to 115.
So were you?
It was terrible. It was terrible.
It was
terrible. Right? It was very, very terrible.
Yeah, it was super
very
taxing.
terrible. It was very terrible.
Do you feel like? I mean, obviously, you know, everybody I think is self-reflective or does some sort of reflection after every competition or fight or whatnot. Do you think looking back, if you'd had say 3 months to prepare and weight cut, that it would have been a dramatically different thing?
No, I just think that weight cut was too small.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? But it was like, dude, this is the opportunity.
Sure.
You'll never get this opportunity again, so you're gonna make the weight. Right? That's, you know, it's like you have to do that, right? You have to do it. It's like, dude, I had wanted those fights, and I was always like almost, you know, I think early days I think even now you get a fight, then something happens, the person drops out. You know, it's that emotional roller coaster of trying to do that.
Sure.
Right? Especially for girls, and then there was just not very many.
Right.
And people, you know, I was like brand new in MMA, but I was a black belt, so that was different. Right? Because most MMA girls weren't really like black belts. They were just like MMA girls.
Right.
Or, you know, it was like, or the black belts weren't 0-0 MMA. So it was like people that, you know, was like had trouble getting fights. I don't know if like looking back, it's like, did I have not the best manager with best interest? You know, I don't know. But I know it's like, dude, I knew that like if I didn't take the fight there at those conditions, you wouldn't get that opportunity. And I wanted to do it. Right?
Sure.
Like when I think of it, like we were talking about earlier, was it a smart choice? No.
But it's
a choice that I made to be able to go do that. Right? And like I, you know, we were talking people tell you they want to do things. Well, it's like, are you willing to do those kind of stupid things? Are you willing to do dumb things to do what you want to do? And most people don't. That's, you know, I kind of learned that, and it's like there's probably some dumb things that I wouldn't do now.
Right.
Yeah, I would never do that now.
What was it like being in, was it a cage or a ring? I'm struggling to remember here.
In Japan?
Yeah.
Ring.
It was a ring.
Yeah, because they don't do the cage.
Right.
It was awesome. They were like sitting down at tables and very like clapping, and dude, it was awesome. It was at Tokyo. It was at some famous arena there that they have all the like
big
pro wrestling fights and, you know, all of that. So it was really cool to go there and be able to fight her. You know, I didn't have a lot of fights, so it was like, that's like, dude, you'd rather have good fights than just like rando.
Yeah.
Right?
Bums or something like that.
Yeah, just some rando fight.
How did you work your striking? Because you came from this like really solid jiu-jitsu background, but did you bring in a striking coach or how?
I was training with Eric Dahlberg.
Oh, okay.
And so I was training with him, and he had, you know, did like my striking, right? And I had a boxing guy named Mike the Mouth that boxed out of Eric's.
Okay.
Right? He actually became a very famous, like not famous, but very like accomplished, like kind of B level. You know, not Mike Tyson, not that top level, but I mean he actually fought at the Tacoma Dome, and like he broke his jaw, and the other guy got put into a medical coma.
Wow.
Right?
That's a fight. Yeah.
That's a fight. He was that kind of guy.
So he was your boxing coach?
He was my boxing coach. Like, he went with me to New Zealand. I had a super fight in New Zealand when I went up in weight. There was like this team thing. And so I was like one of the people from Team America against like Team New Zealand, right? And so he helped me with that. And so I just like kind of, I was mainly training out a ring demon when I was doing the MMA, right?
Did you get comfortable with striking? Like, how do you feel about striking now? Do you like that? Obviously, you like jiu-jitsu more. You do that.
I like jiu-jitsu more. If I was younger, I would love striking, right? It's not something you can do.
Head trauma repetitively.
You can't. It's not something I can do. Later, I actually like started striking just randomly with this guy named Eugene, who was a judo guy from Russia or like Soviet.
Oh, okay.
And he was in like a Soviet school where he was like a master of sport in judo.
Right, okay.
Okay,
Got
but he was in the school where he was training was all the boxers too, so he learned all this crazy boxing, and it was basically Cuban style boxing.
Oh,
and so I did some boxing with him, and I loved it. Right, I like this technical, those kind of things. I love hitting mitts. If I could just hit mitts and have someone hold mitts for me,
I was just going to ask, you still do that? Or
no, I don't
work,
do any of that because I have like a really bad knee. But like if I had the, I loved it. I thought it was super fun. I would like to I actually went and got it like my last fight. I did that just because I was like, oh, I'm learning this boxing stuff. I have no business fighting, but I just want to like try out this boxing.
Okay.
Right? And I totally got concussed and got the shit beat out of me. But it's like, dude, I like trained and learned all this fucking cool boxing.
Yeah.
Super cool boxing footwork, and and I learned like you shouldn't be doing this anymore.
Right.
And I knew it immediately. Like it's just like, oh, you used to be very hungry, right? Like wanting to win and
sure,
doing whatever you needed to do to win. And then I was just like, I just want to do some fun boxing.
Okay.
Right? And that's not what you should think when you're going into an MMA fight.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Right?
So I guess, mindset, because I definitely wanted to ask you about that. Again, we're same generation. We started training roughly around the same time. With aging and training in jiu-jitsu, or martial arts in general, I guess, just broadly speaking, how have you found that things have changed for you competitively or just in the training room or whatnot? How do you approach that, or what does that look like for you?
Well, I think like when I first started jiu-jitsu, I was definitely very like focused just on me. I'll say like improving me as an athlete, improving me competitively, right? Whether that was jiu-jitsu or MMA or anything, it was just like I was very focused on me getting better, right? And I would say the first several years, by 5 plus, was mainly focused on that, me, right? And then you get a school, and even when I was running my first school, or first teaching, I was still very focused on me, right? And then I think I slowly kind of drifted to where I was like more focused on the students, right? And then kind of a little more focused on me, but more focused on the school, not focused just like jiu-jitsu just for me.
Got it.
Right?
Got it.
And then it's like now I'm like very much more focused on the health of my school, the health of the team, the health of the business, right? All of those things. Then like 2005, Cindy didn't think about those things much. Right?
Sure.
Right? Just like it's just different phases of like, okay, I'm thinking about this way of training. And like, I think you have to think, if you don't know any jiu-jitsu, you better think about you first.
That makes
you better
sense.
not start thinking about how to teach everyone else. You better think about how to get good. Right? And I was thinking about getting good and proving that I was good. And then it was like, okay, I'm pretty good. So now I'm going to look at like trying to create, I mainly was teaching kids. I really like focused most. I taught other classes, but I feel like I really was focused on like had a really strong kids teaming. When I was at Baja, I was, there's other guys teaching. It was like no one else was teaching kids. I was really teaching kids. I had some really strong kids, right? And now it's like, now I like focus on the school as a whole, my team as a whole. I would definitely put the team health, the gym health ahead of like me doing tournaments.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, that's changed a couple years ago during COVID when the gym couldn't really do anything. I started doing all the IBJJF stuff again. Okay. And I did that whole little run to go like do the top, they have that top 3 ranking. So, right, I just made the run for that. I got to number 2.
Nice.
2 years in a row, I was number 2 overall. So that's pretty good. But like, that was not the same intensity that I was doing when I was actually like truly competing.
Sure.
Right? In my mind, honestly, the IBJJF, I don't really train all that much different. I feel like average Cindy should be good enough. That's because average Cindy is a jiu-jitsu person.
Yeah.
Average Cindy isn't a desk jockey.
Right.
That goes and does jiu-jitsu to have something to do. Average Cindy is a jiu-jitsu person. So average Cindy should be desk jockey in training.
Got it. No,
right? Do you know what I mean? Hobbyist jiu-jitsu person that's going to win a tournament. I should be able to win a tournament of old ladies at any moment.
That's
the standard I try to hold myself to.
This is your thing.
This is
like your art. This is
you better at least be competent at your thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's okay. So there was a quote that you had doing research for this interview. I'm going to pull it up. I want to read this. It's a quote of yours, and it's honestly I remember reading at the time. I think it's an article from 2016. They were talking to you about your MMA career, but it was super inspiring to me and really resonated with me. So these are your words, but I want to read them. And you were talking basically about like the intensity of training and what that takes. So you said, I think it relates to anyone who is hyper focused in one thing, be it music, art, fighting, business, whatever. There is an amount of isolation, loneliness in the mastery of an art. Actual real isolation or mental isolation. It's just countless hours of working on something, the grind of the mundane. I enjoy it. It's calming. Fighting strips away fake things. I like that. Lots of things in life are fake. Fighting is real. Being outside, sitting in the sun is real. Social media, selfies are not. So much of life is fabricated. I like living in the country, doing what I want, feeling real feelings. It's not always exciting. Most of the time it isn't. But it feels better than many other things I've done.
I still feel that way.
I was just going to ask you that.
100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because now, the last thing that I got hyper focused on, so I did the gym, and then during COVID, the gym was shut down.
Right.
And I lived out in the country, and I was like, I have to figure out how I can save my gym. Right?
Yeah.
And so I remodeled my house and sold it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So I did that, and I lived in the gym, and I did DoorDash.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because I was out in Gold Bar.
Sure.
So, part of the time I was out in Gold Bar fixing up my house. Right? Having my house fixed up. I didn't fix it up. I had managed the project of it. Right? And I would sleep here 5 days a week, and I would do DoorDash. 14 hours a day. Okay? Because I didn't have work here.
Right.
So I did that, and then I put my house up for sale, lived in a motel.
No joke.
And did DoorDash.
Man.
Right? And I sold my house, and I paid all the money back that I borrowed for the gym, and I paid all the money back to my parents, and I had enough money, and then I tried to buy a condo, but they were like, oh, you don't have any of, because you've been unemployed technically, because your gym's been down, you can't buy anything.
Man.
Right?
Yeah.
So then I started working at the gym again, worked at the gym and did DoorDash. Wasn't making enough money to get the down payment and meet all the hoops that the mortgage person was like, you got to do this or you're not going to have anything. So I was like, okay, game on.
Yeah.
Right? So I went and got a job at REI that I worked from 5 in the morning until 2.
Dude, yeah.
And then I clocked out, and then I taught from here 2 until 10, and then I would go do DoorDash. Right? And then I would get up, and I did that for a year.
Yeah.
And I came back and I was to the mortgage guy, and I was like, I did every single fucking thing you told me to do. Get me a fucking mortgage, right? I need to buy something.
Yeah.
Right? And then I bought a condo, because I couldn't afford a house.
Sure.
Right? Bought a condo, and they were like, the guy's like, why were you doing this? I was like, you motherfucker, you told me this is what I had to do. Right? And half the stuff they didn't even consider.
Are you serious?
Because they were like, you haven't had the job long enough. I was like, no, motherfucker, get me the loan, right? Get me the loan, and I ended up getting a loan and bought it, and then I bought another rental property, and now that's what I'm trying to do is this grind of right? And that's a whole nother fucking crazy with the rental laws.
Sure, yeah.
And the tenants and fucking HOA and I'm learning all that, but it's Cindy, you have to just do the same thing, right? When something goes wrong, dude, last summer I had all kinds of shit go wrong, and water heater go out, this go out, remodel is going sideways, renter left early, all kinds of shit, right? And it's dude, you gotta do the same thing you did for jiu-jitsu.
Well, okay, so I feel
fucking do the boring shit, right? Do all the stuff that no one wants to fucking do,
yeah.
Right? And people are like, why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? It's dude, because I don't want to be poor. That's why.
There is that element of savage grind and working through adversity. I feel in a lot of ways, I'm fanboying out to get this interview, right? Because you're an inspiration to me. But I know in terms of your story, you've had a lot of injuries have been a big thing, and then just weird left field things like a MBA with a seagull in the middle of
random shit.
Just
random
derail
shit.
stuff, and then you build back from that.
Yeah, that's everything though. That's everyone, right?
True.
Who doesn't have that?
Yeah. But the willingness to engage with it and just sort of come back from those those downturns, I think is
Dude, you got, I mean, you know what's the alternative is like sitting at home being a fucking crybaby.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you know, I know those people.
Sure.
Right? I have
sure.
those people in my family. Right? That life got too hard and so they just sat at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Seriously. Right? And it's like, dude, I'm not doing that.
Right.
I'm not going to do that. Right?
No, I agree with you.
It's like, I would much rather, like, I think it's almost that I talk to like my business partner here. It's like, you know, I complain about stuff constantly, like almost in the sport, but it's like, when things are going sideways, that's like, dude, it's all like almost as exhilarating as like a tournament, right? It's
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
you know, it's terrible while it's happening, but you're in that like just like crisis mode, and it's just like, dude, I'm gonna make this fucking work, right? I actually like now that I've like gone and done more things like that, and the more things like that I do, it's like I like that space.
Yeah.
That meant like, because a lot of people don't want it, they will not do that. They're gonna do everything they can to flee from that. So it's like, dude, I'll run right into that fire. Right? And that's, I think, what makes me good at things. That's what I've learned. Like, that's what makes me a good landlord. That's what makes me, like, able to do certain, it's like, there's nothing special about me. I'm just willing to do, like, the shit that most other people don't want to do.
That hard stuff. Well, that's the appealing thing, I think, for a lot of people about jiu-jitsu, right? It's like, I've heard this sentiment expressed a number of times. It's like, well, no matter what bullshit is going on at work or with your significant other or whatever, if somebody's trying to choke you actively,
Yeah,
like,
you
that's
can't
the only
think about
thing.
right then. That's all you're thinking about, and that's an easy problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? In one way, it's an easy problem. There's always a way out. You can tap.
Yeah.
Right there, so you've always got that safety net. But then it's like, dude, it's a very tangible problem. It's not a fucking thing you're thinking about.
Right.
Right? We don't need to think and talk about it.
It puts you in
Like,
the
I don't
moment.
like problems like that.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, dude, let's just get it done.
No, totally agree. Well, okay. So to segue to talk about sleepers, that's something I definitely wanted to give you an opportunity to do. Tell me about the program you guys have here. I mean, you have a reputation for having such a good kids program, being such a good coach. But tell me, what do you guys offer here? What's the vibe of the school? And
So I would say the vibe of our school, or what I try to tell people, is that we're a family jiu-jitsu school, right? We're primarily a gi school. We have some no-gi classes, but I love the gi. And I think there's a lot of people doing no-gi, and everyone loves the no-gi. Dude, I love gi jiu-jitsu. And I believe there's a lot of power in just like the formality that I didn't always even believe in. But like, and I think it's an easier thing for a lot of people to engage in. It's a little more clean feeling. It's a little more formal. Parents feel a little better, right?
Yeah.
With the structure, I think, you know, and I don't think if I was a 18-year-old Cindy, I would probably be a 10 planet person, right?
Okay, sure,
A no-gi
sure.
person,
Yeah,
you know? And I did that. I was like a gi person, and I went and did MMA, but it's like now, and I tell people, you know, and I used to be very uncomfortable thinking my schools needed to like cater to everyone and be the right thing for everyone, but it's like if you want to be a pro fighter, and that's truly what you are going to be, I'll send you to Ivans.
Sure.
Right? I'm not going to tell you I can accommodate you here, right? Because when I was a pro fighter, I needed to be with a pro fighter school. But it's like if you want to do like, you know, as an adult, you want to just do gi jiu-jitsu, or, you know, we do no gi, but it's like, you know, if you want to do grappling, that's what we do, right? And I have a strong kids program, or, you know, and by strong, I used to focus a lot on having like a very strong competition team. I don't really worry about that right now.
Okay.
We barely even we're just starting to have kids competing again. I just, you know, I had that for a while. I had some hard experiences, and it was one of those things that's very emotional,
Yeah.
right? If you are really, well, again, if you tell me you want to do something, then let's do it. I don't want to do part of it.
Sure.
Right? So it's like if you want to do that, you say you want to do that, and you're not going to do that, then I'm not on board. Right? So it's like, let's do what we want to do. We want to have fun, you know, play some games, learn some moves, learn how to be good citizens.
Yeah.
Right? Learn some manners.
Yeah, the respect.
Learn,
and
you know, do all of those things. That's kind of actually how I see my kids program more. We're here, you know, I teach, we train hard for the kids, for everyone, but it's like I don't push them for competitions. Now we have kids wanting to do more, and I'm, you know, we've started bringing more kids to Revolution, doing all of that, but I don't like to have that be my focus. I did that for a while, and it didn't, you know, I don't always like the way I sometimes feel about kids' competitions and how other people's emotions bleed onto kids' competitions.
Sure.
Right? And if it's unhealthy, then I just don't really feel like doing that. And sometimes I see even like, it's like, coaches, people really want other people to achieve things that maybe they should try and achieve themselves.
Oh yeah.
Right? So it's like I don't need my kids' team to win me medals. I've won my own medals, and when I need medals, I'll go and win my own medals. Right? So I really look at that, and it's like, but when I have kids that are like, I want to do this, it's like, okay, I'll do that with you. Right? And your outcome is whatever it is. I'm there to encourage and inspire people, but I'm not gonna like make people compete for me.
Sure.
Right? Or any of that. You know, you kind of, I don't always know where those lines are, so it's like, you know, I just kind of let that grow a little more organically, and I felt like I needed a little bit of a break from it, just because it's like, I don't always need to be competing about everything. Right? I like to just do jiu-jitsu now for like doing jiu-jitsu, right? Just to do jiu-jitsu. And so it's like, yeah, our school, I think we're primarily do that, but like I said, we have people that compete. I compete a little, but mainly I just like, you know, I like just rolling around, doing jiu-jitsu, showing people moves, learning new moves. So I think that's kind of the main focus of our school, you know, but I think it's really, the focus is what any person brings to it. I can tell, you know, my focus is gi jiu-jitsu.
Got it.
Right? I think that was a very rambling answer.
No, that was a good answer. That's a wide range, and I think that gives me a good perspective. And you have like a wide diversity of people. So it's not just your like again, when we first started jiu-jitsu, it was like 18 to 28-year-old dudes in a jiu-jitsu school. That was like your only clientele, basically. So now you have a wide array of people that train, all ages and whatnot.
Yeah, like we were talking earlier, I have like kids 4 to 6, right? That's a totally different look than when we were starting, right?
Yeah.
And like, what does that jiu-jitsu look like compared to, you know, kids jiu-jitsu, compared to adult jiu-jitsu classes, right? And it's like, I think there's different skills you're trying to learn in each of those, right? And so it's like, I try to teach to the right level and like, get kids ready to be, you know, like at the little kids, it's like learn how to be in a room with people, learn how to sit down, learn like basic motor skills.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't do jiu-jitsu, most of them aren't going to do jiu-jitsu for a lifetime. They're going to come and do jiu-jitsu for a few months or a couple years, and then they're going to do soccer. And it's like you want them to be comfortable in their body and able to like listen in classes. Right? That's like kind of the goal of that, and like be a little more confident and like learning moves, and then kids that stick around start improving their game. Right? And still working on all those basic things. And I mean, I guess honestly in the adult class, it's like you have to work on some of those basic things that those adults that didn't attend any kind of children's class as children.
That
right?
is, yeah, I think a super big challenging thing that I really hadn't anticipated when I opened my own academy was like trying, for the adults specifically, to try and teach to people, because like some of them are just coming off of being college wrestlers and other people are, you know, 45 and have never done anything athletic in their life, and trying to get something that's engaging teach something that's engaging for everybody, but not so advanced that the, you know, this set of people is just going to be left behind.
Yeah.
That's a challenge.
That's a challenge, right? That's a challenge. But I think like jiu-jitsu, because, you know, I try to tackle that challenge by like, well, one, I think everyone can use basics all the time, right? Yeah. Even the people who are like super athletes and everything that can win through it, it's like, we can all do basics, right? And I think the depth of like detail that you put on any of the moves, right? You can have like really the framework of the move that I'll try and teach like newer people, and then people who are beyond that, it's like there's a lot of detail that you can put on anything.
Sure.
Right?
Scissor sweep or whatever.
Any move, you can add a whole bunch of layers to it, right? That you wouldn't add to like a technical like beginner's class. You would just show like 5 steps, 3 steps. But like you could show the same move to another person in like 40 steps. Right? So it's like you should be able to, well, I try to teach across that cross section that way, right? With like adding or taking out detail.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think you're exactly right, because I did before I opened an academy. I used to think of it as like there's the advanced moves, like there's the barrel pull or there's inversion or whatever, and then there's like scissor sweep, arm bar, kimura, you know, your basics. But you're right. You could take those basics and elevate them to a much higher level. And now I find myself like when I go back to look at YouTube videos or whatever, I'm not necessarily looking at the fancy stuff. I'm looking at that basic stuff and trying to find high level people like. Well, yeah, but how do you make that scissor sweep work on a black belt when you're rolling with them? Like
Well, and there's like the concepts that you learn within any of those moves as well. I think that I don't know. I try to see a lot of the moves. It's like, it's not the move per se that you're teaching. It's the concepts within the move that you're teaching, right? And then those concepts can go to every move.
Sure.
Right? So everyone has like kind of the base staple of moves that they're teaching, and they teach them different ways, right? Everyone has their own little ways, and it's like, I don't know, for me, I didn't have anyone teach me all the moves in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Right? At all. I didn't even watch all the moves in jiu-jitsu.
Right.
I don't know if I'm a different type of learner, but it's like, I just do things that are in alignment with the concepts that I learned in all the other moves. Right? Like weight distribution and, off balancing people in ways and clearing posts and using frames. Like, those are across every move.
Yeah.
Right? And you learn all of those skills, and then you do things with those skills, and they become other moves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I think about moves more. And I try and tell people, and I think that's less linear. And you have people that just want you, like, just show me the move. Like, I can just show you moves. But it's like, once you're like training, you're not just doing rote moves. If you are, you're not winning.
Yeah. No, true.
Probably, right? I think there are some of those like drillers make killers and they just do their moves and that's all they. I don't believe that that's all they do, but I guess you could argue that.
No, I agree.
Right, but there's a lot of level of improvisation.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. So that's a good segue, because I was going to ask you about you've refereed at a high level for a long time too, and I was really interested to get your opinion on a number of things on that. But one of them would be the scoring system in jiu-jitsu. Makes sense, it's cohesive, but I think what people don't understand, for those of you watching at home who might just train and haven't competed, or even if you've competed but never refed, the application of the scoring system to a live ongoing match, things don't always move in that linear fashion.
No.
And so the difficulty, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is trying to figure out, well, was that actually a pass, or was that actually, like, I could award these points, but I'm not sure what that actually looked like.
Well, you have to look at it all contextually.
Sure.
And I would say most of the people who do jiu-jitsu don't know how to do the rules.
Yeah.
They don't actually know the rules. They don't actually know. They know the basic framework of the scoring, but they don't know the nuances of the game and the rules and how to use the rules. And I don't even feel like I know all of those things. Right?
I've heard say that.
It's like I do and I don't, and it's very confusing. I think it's hard for it's frustrating as a ref, because you're like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about, right? You don't know. I know what you're thinking, but you don't know what you're talking about in the case of the rules.
Even the coaches.
Right? Many people, the competitors, the coaches, many people, right? And it's like, I think that is in many ways a flaw of the rules, because things shouldn't be that difficult.
Yeah.
But also, I think that speaks to jiu-jitsu people. Jiu-jitsu people don't want to learn rules.
Yeah.
Right? Jiu-jitsu people want to be right, just like all people, but they definitely just don't want to learn, they just glaze over, you get to page 5.
Right,
and
right.
You get to page 1 of the chart and they're done. Right? And there's 40 pages behind that of nuance.
Right.
That's anything.
Yeah.
Most people don't want to read too deeply.
Actually, I would say there's, just because I did judo for a long time too and went to judo tournaments, and one difference I have noticed between jiu-jitsu people and a lot of other martial arts, whether it's karate or judo, most martial arts have this codified system. It's here's these 10 kata, here's the 5 moves, this is it, and there's nothing else. Whereas jiu-jitsu is just constantly creating stuff and coming up with new things, and it's limitless, right?
Yeah, nothing's right or wrong, really, right? People can tell you it's wrong, but it's well, it's working, so it's right.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's great.
Yeah.
But it lends to a person that's a little less governable.
Right.
By the rules.
Right. No, I agree with that. That's funny. I hadn't thought about it that way, but until you just said that. But
and I'll say Jeff is the best at refereeing. He's the best at teaching the rules, and he's also the best at enforcing the rules and being polite to those who don't know the rules.
I've seen him negotiate some very difficult conversations with some very upset people and do it I don't know that anybody else could have done it.
Yeah.
He does it. That's
and to manage all the jiu-jitsu people that are not regular people.
Herding cats.
Right? I mean, he has a definite skill of all of those things.
Do you like refereeing? I mean, despite all its challenges?
I do like it. I liked it because Well, honestly, my favorite part of it was that it made me watch people that I would not watch normally. And so I would always be on top of like who was really good and like what was, different people that I would just, normally you're just going to go watch your friends.
Sure.
Right? When you're at a jiu-jitsu tournament, I don't just like intently watch every match.
Right.
But when you're a referee, you do. So you watch discovered like, oh, here's all these cool up and comers that I would normally just not paid attention to. So I really like that aspect of it. Well, I like the aspect of like knowing how to do the craft and know the rules of the sport that is my business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think as the kind of coach that I want to be and the school that I want to have and just the like personal accountability to the sport that I've spent so much of my life doing,
Sure.
I feel that I should know the rules more than tertiary.
Do you feel like it's made your jiu-jitsu better?
Yeah,
So,
because well, tournament jiu-jitsu, IBJJF sport jiu-jitsu, yeah, because I know, the nuance of the rules,
Sure.
right?
How to exploit that.
How to exploit the rules, right? And that's what, I learned, like, whether you like the rules or not is irrelevant, right? Just like any rules in life.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you like them. They're the rules and you learn to play within those rules. And then you can't be mad about that.
Sure.
The people, the people like, oh, that's it's the fucking rules. It's the rules, and you paid the money, signed up for the game that we all agreed to, and the goal is to exploit the rules.
Yeah.
In any game.
If
The
there was,
goal is to win.
yeah.
The goal is to win. Well, however you win, the goal is to win.
Well, okay. So with your perspective, having competed and trained in the time where like a lot of the rules, like knee reaping was not a thing. And
Yeah, those were all.
2000,
It was
like,
just that was legal. Everything
yeah,
was legal.
Everything was legal.
Everything was legal.
So with that perspective, knowing what that was like in the Wild West days and to now, is there anything, if they suddenly made you Lord Commander of the IBJJF, is there anything you would change rule-wise?
No, I'm happy. I think it's fine. I think, it's like there's been so many iterations of rules and people who actually like to think about rules and care about rules and do all of those things still can't figure it out. Right?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, there's never a perfect set of rules because there's always humans to go and fuck with those rules and find the holes.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't really care. I don't care. That's not my forte in life is to care about rules. Honestly, I'm not like as good as Jeff that like I like really would engage in that way.
I don't know that
Right?
they broke the mold when they made that guy. That's Jeff Bourgeois.
It's just like I like being of service to the sport of jiu-jitsu and to Jeff.
Yeah.
As a referee, right? If I ever ref, I would ref for Jeff. I wouldn't ref for anyone else. I would ref for Jeff because I like Jeff and I like Jeff's tournaments, right? And I like the sport, but I'm not a person that's like, I really care about this rule or that rule.
Got
right?
it.
Just tell me what the rules are, and I actually like to be a competitor more.
Okay.
Right? If like, I'm not a person that would want to watch anyone do anything if I could be doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I would always opt to be the person doing it.
Well, okay, so this is a question that's actually a great segue into this next question. Do you, as a black belt, as somebody who's competed, do you keep up with like the modern paradigm of jiu-jitsu? Do you watch like Gordon Ryan or CJI? Are you invested in like the way that like a Seahawks fan would be invested in watching football?
No, I'm not. I'm a terrible fan at everything.
Yeah.
Right? I should be a better fan. I try to watch the moves to know things.
Sure.
Right? I think I wouldn't be a better fan. I would be a better jiu-jitsu athlete if I wasn't hurt. As an older, aging grappler, right? There's things that it's like, I would love to be doing that, but I literally can't do that.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like, I gotta kind of muddle my way through teaching it or find someone else to show it for me. Right? Because I literally, like, my leg doesn't bend that way. I'm scared that, I'm gonna have a catastrophic knee injury if I do that. But if I was if it was optimal Cindy, I would be loving all of it. Not as a fan. As a participant.
Got it. So you wouldn't sit down and watch CGI with popcorn and just be like...
I would do it begrudgingly.
Yeah.
And I would do that even when I was in the top of my game. I would rather be doing it. Right?
No, that makes
and
sense.
like now that I can't do that, I'm like, I don't watch UFC. I'm like trying to be like, oh, you're going to start watching UFC to be like more community at the gym.
Yeah,
doing all that. But it's like I don't really care.
Got it.
I would rather be doing whatever gets me to the next thing that I want to be doing. Right? That no one else really wants to be doing.
Right. All that hard
right?
stuff.
I would rather be doing that stuff but it's like, some of that stuff is like, do that stuff because my job is the gym, right? So I engage with it that much, but it's like, it's different now because I used to like be at every jiu-jitsu thing, like in a tri-state area that you could possibly go to. And now I'm like, dude, I can't remember the last time I went to anything other than Jeff's, right? That's the only thing I really go to.
Is that right?
Yeah, you know, and it's just like, it's kind of weird, but it's like, I got all this other stuff to do, and I actually am just like, I come to the gym every day, I come to my own gym every day, right, and I do that, but it's like, I'm like, dude, you need some other hobbies. So, you're right, because I literally didn't do anything but jiu-jitsu for like 20 years.
Sure.
Like, literally didn't do anything
This
but
was
jiu-jitsu.
your focus.
Yeah, only jiu-jitsu. So it's like, you know, people are like, I'm like, I think I'm different. So now I try to, like, I'm into swimming.
Okay.
Right, I try to do the bike riding.
Yeah.
Right, all the things that like you should do that you won't hurt yourself as much.
You got your dogs.
I got my dogs, so
Yeah.
I'm like really into the dogs, and I do like dog training and that kind of stuff. Right, try to make them not wild.
Sure.
Make them good citizens. Right, good gym citizens, and yeah, I try to do like road trips. Right, anything I like do jiu-jitsu related, it's like as an avenue to go do something else.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Whereas I used to do the opposite. Everything was an avenue to do jiu-jitsu.
Just hyper.
Now jiu-jitsu is just like an avenue to like go explore other things. Right?
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. So how do you feel like you keep progressing then in jiu-jitsu despite that? Like
The progress I feel like I make in jiu-jitsu now is like being able to do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Right? I don't, you know, I make up my own moves to like correlate with the injuries I currently suffer. Right? Like workarounds, basically. Workarounds to, like, I'll tell you the story, like, oh, which move am I going to show today? I came in and rolled it open mat so that I could figure out which move I could do, like which leg hurt the least, so I'll figure out which move I'll show today.
Okay.
Right? So that's how I do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I don't really know what I'm going to have that day. Right? But it's like, oh, I can cobble together something and like be stoked that I'm doing jiu-jitsu because I could not be doing jiu-jitsu.
I think that is one of the nice things about this sport as opposed to, like, I played rugby when I was younger, I did judo, and with most sports, if you get a bad injury, like you're just out, you're done, you really can't do it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of workarounds.
Totally.
You can adjust your jiu-jitsu, like maybe you can't compete, or maybe you can't roll
Dude,
super
I'll argue
hard.
mostly you can't even do that if you're creative enough.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
Because everyone's hurt.
Yeah.
Everyone is hurt. That's what's like, you know, and then the ones that aren't hurt haven't been doing jiu-jitsu very long.
Right.
Right? That's when I looked at the black belt level. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm like the old person in the division, right? And all the old people in the old person division that have been doing it a long time are all hurt.
Yeah.
And then there's all the people that just got their black belts.
Right. No, that's true.
But then it's like, but I know more jiu-jitsu than you.
Yeah.
Because you just got your black belt, and I've had my black belt for like 15 years.
Yep.
So, you know, there's like dude, look at fucking Megatron.
Yeah.
He's still winning the adult division. He's like 50-something or something. He might even be older than that.
Crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
And you can't tell me that guy's not hurt.
Oh yeah, I'm sure his litany list of injuries is like 5 years.
So it's like, if you're a real stud, you can even win.
Sure. Yeah, but I think that is the nice part is like we can all still
You can all still be on the
map.
map. You can all still be on the map, right? And you see the people that are like 20 and say they're hurt and can't be on the mat. It's like, you know.
Yeah. Get out of
Right?
here.
So there's yeah.
Well, okay, and so for somebody, and I'm sure you run into this question a lot, but I like to ask everybody who comes on, particularly gym owners, for those people who are in that fragile period, to say the first 6 months to year of training jiu-jitsu. And, you know, there's a high attrition rate. A lot of people come in and then they quit because it's hard, because, you know, whatever, life gets in the way, or they get intimidated, whatever it is, a lot of different reasons. What do you tell people, what would you tell people who have just started to help them stay through that period and like reap the rewards of training long term? How would you help them be successful?
Well, I try to tell them to be comfortable with tapping, right? That, we don't know how much anyone listens to that. But it's like, you know, in the beginning you should not even have any emotional investment in tapping because there's no expectation that you know everything. So I try to tell people, embrace that. Because there will be a time when people are telling you, what are you doing? You should know this, right? But like in the beginning, no one's telling you that. So it's like you should be much more open then to like a learning process of beginner people. Because they, like I said, low expectation for them. So, and then just try and have people pace themselves a little more than we were encouraged to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you don't have to go crazy all the time, and you know, just setting like better expectations. I don't know if it's a good or bad, because I think jiu-jitsu is supposed to be hard, but you know, as the business side of things, it's like my job to keep people in the room. Yeah. Right? You need the people in the room. So it's like trying to slow people down that way, right? Like, you know, and I know I try to recognize that that's hard for most people. So it's like if you can give someone the out and slow it down for them, right? Yeah, people like tell me, I know you weren't tapping. I know you're not tired. All of the things that you're telling me you're not, that I'm very clear that you are, right? And just like trying to stop it for them, just like you tap for a little kid. Yeah. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, right? Letting people take a break, making people take a break, where like maybe before they would be pushed to go farther,
sure,
right? Or like people are actually trying to push themselves, and it's like, dude, you don't, just stop, right? Otherwise, your wife is not going to let you come in here because you're going to be hurt. Right? Whatever. Yeah. And I try to tell people, like, dude, you're not good. You're too old. You're not a world champion. We're in no rush. Yeah. Calm down. Right? Like, let's be realistic here. What is the goal here? Right? You're being silly. No one cares. Like, your ego, no one cares about it. Calm down. And people talk, like, I have several people like that, right? I have a funny story. I think this is funny. So I have some guys that I really like, both the guys. But I watch them go so hard. Two bigger guys, new guys, killing each other. Independently, I always see them after class. Other times, they're all hurt, right? Or they got hurt. One day, I'm like, well, I'm sitting here watching, right? I'm watching them. I see they're going to be hurt, right? But I've just told them they're going to be hurt like a couple days ago, and they're, no, stop. You know, they're kind of like that way, right? Stop babying me, right? I get that vibe. I'm like, okay. Literally, I'm like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to let them have whatever they're getting. Right? And then like, dude, what the fuck, man? Right? And then it's the whole conversation again. Yeah. Right? And then the other guy is just like, sorry, bro. And it's like, yeah, that guy does not care. No one cares if they hurt you. Even if they say they care, it does not matter.
They're not going to pay your bills.
They're not going to pay your bills. They're not going to heal you. None of that matters. It doesn't fucking matter. Yeah. Right? Yep. So, and it's, you know, and it's not even that person you meet. What are they going to possibly say that's going to matter? Nothing. Right. Nothing. Right? I have that happening. This is like a 6 a.m. class. And then I'm like, finally go over and start harping on them. And then I look over here and there's a guy getting choked unconscious. He's just like laying there. I'm like, what are you doing? Why is he not moving? What are you guys doing? I have to yell at everyone. It's like, I try to like lay my guard down and not baby them, and then that happens.
Have you had the experience as a coach? I'm sure you have. Like the minute you look over and you see your student sees that you're watching, now they're just joy, 150%. Like they're like, coach is watching.
I try not to reward that.
I'm getting that stripe. That's, you know.
I try to just look away. And in disdain. I want them to understand my disdain when they do that. It's like the kid who looks up and is smiling when they're winning. Yeah. You're like, dude. I always just like wait till they're losing and then look over again.
Yeah. Maybe you'll have to try that.
I had the kids class, we call that stay humble.
Okay, yeah.
Stay humble, right? You know, they're on top, and I'm like, yeah, let's stay humble. And just look away.
Right. Okay, well, maybe I'll steal that from you.
Dude. And then we talk about how whenever they start crying, then it's like, okay, well, now I want to talk to you.
Sure.
Right? Now I want to remind you of that feeling before and how you'll never have that again.
Yeah.
We've been working a lot on that. We have a few of those in my kids' class right now where, dude, it's an up and down battle, just like jiu-jitsu, of like managing kids, right? Managing people, managing the team.
Sure.
Right? All of the things. Like,
well, how do you set gym culture? Like, how do you use anything broadly speaking, or like leadership classes, or do you just sort of?
Dude, I'm not all the way through it. You know, the way I try and do it is like, I'm going to just be here doing everything I'm going to have you be doing, right? Like, I'll say we've been in a little bit of trouble in the kids' class, right? Dude, I've been doing a lot of burpees. A lot of burpees with the kids, right? But it's like, you got to do it. It's like, dude, we're being ridiculous, and we're going to stop that. Until we do, we're going to do burpees. So here we go, right? Here we go. And, dude, in like a week, everyone got really good. Weird. All of a sudden.
They got better behaved and they were in really good shape.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? But it's like, if you just yell at people and don't do them there with them, I don't think that happens.
Yeah.
Right? So I just try and just like anything, it's like, here, we're in it together. And I'm going to be here doing all the stuff that you don't want to be doing. I'm going to be doing it so I can be yelling at you to do it. That's kind of how, I don't know if that's right or wrong. I don't feel like I had tons of, when I was coming up, you were just doing the best you could to learn any kind of moves.
Sure.
Right? I don't remember all this gym leadership.
Yeah, no, that was not.
That wasn't wrong. And from all the other athletic endeavors I had and growing up and stuff, that wasn't a focus of things that I learned. Mm-hmm. So I'm definitely learning along the way.
Sure.
Right?
Sure, yeah.
Jocko wasn't my dad. One of those things, right? I didn't have, that wasn't the environment that I came up in. I don't actually know anyone of my generation that really had that, right? I don't think I was an anomaly or special or, mistreated. It was just not really what you did.
Not a thing.
Right? And it's like, I don't run like a boot camp room, but it's like, dude, I feel like the best leadership, I like to follow the people that I see doing shit. That's what I know. Mm-hmm. I don't like to follow the person telling me to do stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I don't like, right? I like, if someone's there, I'll go with them doing it. But if they're telling me to do it and I know they're not doing it and they can't do it, no way. Sure. So that's what it's like. You better, like the burpees, it's like, I better be prepared.
Get in the trenches.
We better go. I actually did so many burpees I made myself sick. I was like, I didn't vomit, but I had a cold because I was like, dude, you just did too much exercising. But it's like, dude, that's good.
Yeah. No, I think in the aggregate.
I don't know, I don't know if that's the easiest path to it, but that's kind of the approach I use.
But it's what's working.
It's what's, I think for me that's what works in jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. Work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I used to try and talk to them, and kids don't respond to that, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about it earlier. Yeah, they respond to it in this is how I don't have to do anything.
Right.
Start talking and negotiating and talking about their feelings. I don't care. Right? I don't care.
Sure.
No one cares. Right? Just like we're talking about. You get people, it's like, dude, I just want the work done.
Yeah.
Right? And I expect the same thing of myself. It's like, no one cares. You can cry about it. We can all cry about it, but we're going to keep doing it.
Let's make this functional.
Well, we're just going to keep doing it so we can talk or whatever, but we can keep doing the burpees. It's not a pathway to not doing that stuff.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
Which I think a lot of times people try to use the talking and all the other things to instead of.
Yeah.
In lieu of. And it's like, no. You can tell me your feelings while you're burping.
Well, jiu-jitsu has this great built-in mechanism for that, right? And I say that coming from karate originally. There's a lot of traditional martial arts that is usable, but then there's a lot of fakery and theoretics where it's like,
if it's working.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, if that kid over there that's working really hard and this one that's not, I can tell you who's going to suffer.
Right.
In the sparring. Right? And that's the best thing about jiu-jitsu.
You get that.
Very clear.
Yeah.
There's no lying on who's winning.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone tells you all kinds of things. It's like, well, let's see. And then you can see. And then we don't even talk about it anymore. Everyone just saw.
How about for promotions? Because that's another area that I think for me, that's been one of the hardest things as a gym owner or a coach. And I've heard other people express similar sentiments, and students always seem bewildered and mystified by what's going to get them to that next level. What are you looking for? How do you sort of look at the belts, broadly speaking? Do you have any sort of philosophy overarching on I want blue belts to be this, or a stripe means this?
I think for kids, it's one way. For adults, I kind of look at it maybe a little differently, right? When I came up where there's no testing, there's no formal structure of what to know. And Rodrigo is always very talking about how everyone has a different ability, right? That everyone's starting and ending point, potential ending point is different.
Sure.
Right? And so you take the structure of the belt and make it fit in the person's ability span. Right? And that's really the theory that I've kind of looked at. And, I've waffled back and forth and and fundamentally I feel the belts about how I feel the rules. I don't really care. Okay? So I don't really care, quite honestly.
Okay.
As an athlete, as a person receiving belts, I do care now because it's like the formality of it. But like, I think early on I had some let's say less than excellent interactions with the belts, right, and promotions.
Okay.
And different coaches' reactions to promotions. Okay? And also we talked about how, like, dude, no matter my belt level, I was never the best person in the room. And I was always clear of that. Okay? So I think that, like, for me, it's just like, dude, this is just a formality. Now I appreciate it in that, like, oh, it's kind of neat to have something that, like, I've not done anything else in my life as long as I've done jiu-jitsu. Sure. So, like, to get, like, the next degree and stuff, that seems kind of, like, meaningful in this other way. But, like, the day-to-day belt stuff, for adults, on a lot of ways, I'm like, you should just do it just to do it, and it's a formality in my mind, right? But then, how do I do that within, so that's the personal feelings.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, those are my personal feelings, which are separate from, I think, like, what I would look at as a business.
Right.
Okay, so my business idea of it would be I try to belt people similar to, like, how I came up, of, like, I'll say, for example, I have a guy who started at, like, 55, right? As an older gentleman who'd never done anything, no athletics, right? He had a heart attack in a class once and drove himself to the hospital, and then that's when I found out he had a heart attack, right? He's now a black belt.
Oh, wow.
And, like, his level of, like, what he's going to do would be radically different from the kid that started at 18.
Yeah.
Right? And the expectations and all of those things. And that scenario taught me a lot about, like, dude, there's just someone just, like, chugging away trying to, like, not die in jiu-jitsu and, like, be in the room. And, like, you know, he's had a lot of other health problems and life problems, and he still comes in and, like, talking to me about, like, how can I just be here? He can't do as much.
Sure.
Right? And it's like, dude, we're all going to be there. So everyone in this room better respect that you're here. Right? And so that guy has a whole different pathway of success than, like I said, the 18-year-old kid that tells me he wants to be a world champion. Right? And my expectations of that kid. And then the mom that comes in and, like, wants to lose weight and, like, learn some self-defense and do something. My expectation of that lady is going to be a little different. Sure. Right? And so I try to look at those things and look at effort. Right? And look at, like, are you nice to people in the room?
Yeah.
Right?
Teammates.
Are you a detraction from the community? Or are you willing to, like, give forward? Right? Because there's a lot of things you can do without being great at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Within jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Right? If you're unwilling to do anything and you still want to move forward, you're not going to.
Right, yeah.
Right?
I agree with that.
But if you're willing to do your best on the mat and your best is not amazing, but it's your best, and then you're super helpful and you help do all these other things, you can still progress.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And I used to not believe in that 100%. Right? I'll say that.
Yeah.
Right? But it's like we're all, again, if you have a black belt and you suck, everyone knows.
Right.
Everyone knows. So it's like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? And then getting back to, if you suck but you're super nice and you're trying hard and you're an old person that has a lot of disabilities and that's why you suck? Or are you a blue belt that's being an asshole and then losing and you suck?
Yeah.
So those are two different people.
Sure. Yeah.
And those are two different types of jiu-jitsu, and those are two different reasons for sucking, and you know, and I look at all of those things.
That makes sense.
Right? And then it's like, you know, I try to go a little slow on the promotions too, because I feel like we're a smaller school. I feel like when you have a larger school, you have like this like protector class. Right? You have your competitors that like are the outward shield for everyone who sucks.
Yeah. True.
Right?
Yeah,
then you have all your hobbyists, and it's like, but those people aren't out in the world.
Right.
They're protected by the school. Right? And then you have your, like, force. You have your what you're showing to the world.
Right.
Right? Those people. Right? And it's like, we're a small school. It's like, I'm the one I have to show that I know how to do jiu-jitsu, so I've done that. Right? I've checked that box. And then I have some tough guys, but it's like, dude, then everyone else, you gotta be good enough to get by. That's what's like, we have a big open mat. It's like, want people to train with people from other gyms. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
you need to be trained in other places because it's like, you can't just be here. And it's like, and then you better be nice to people.
Yeah.
And be humble and not be a baby when you lose, right? Because you can not be the best person at jiu-jitsu, but if you're cool, then it's okay.
That goes a long way.
It goes a long way. You can't be 100% terrible at jiu-jitsu, right? But you can like be like, dude, not everyone's move's gonna work on everyone.
Sure.
Right? And all these people that like act like you should, you know, you're a black belt, you're gonna win. That's fake.
No.
That's fake.
not a
That's
thing.
fake.
Yeah.
Right? That's fake. When we used to think that, or like that would magically one day you would just start winning.
Right.
Right? There you would finally learn enough that you would win you could win against everyone. That's not real. That's not real. And the people that still like kind of like talk to me as if that's real, it's like we're clear that's not real.
That mystique.
That's not real.
Yeah.
That's not real. Get over that because that you're going to be unfulfilled.
Yep. Yeah. You know, even black belts have those hard drives home where we're just like questioning them.
Yeah, I thought when I got here it would be better. It's not.
Yep.
Just like everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But that's, I guess, hopeful in the sense that there's always stuff to learn. Like you can always get better. There's always elements of your game. It always keeps you humble, I guess, in essence.
Yeah, and you know.
It could be a hard pill to swallow.
It's just like you should just be doing it because you like to do it.
Yeah.
Right? And it doesn't really matter. None of that other stuff matters. As long as you're not a jerk.
Right.
Right? As long as you're not a jerk, most people are going to allow you to, and as long as they're not a jerk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then everything can be fine.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, I think that's something, I mean, there's definitely...
Like when you have two normal people that know how to do jiu-jitsu, of any size, they can roll together and everything can be fine.
Can be safe. Yeah.
Everything can be fine. Right? Obviously, one of those people probably can beat the other person. But in that scenario, everything can be fine. And everyone accepts that.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone accepts reality.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, that's also one of the cool things about it, that like if you are this big hulking, you know, heavyweight, strong person, you can still get something out of a roll with anybody. But
Totally.
120 pounder, like
Totally.
if you roll the right way, there's still gonna be lessons.
Yeah, and there's stuff you can work on and like little conceptual things you can do. And dude, I like love rolling with new people. As long as they're not gonna like do crazy stuff and, you know, even if they are, it's like, dude, it's as long as you're like safe, it's like, dude, I like it. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. You can see they're going to do different reactions than any normal person's going to do that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So
really unexpected stuff.
yeah.
Well, then, do you do any self-defense stuff, or like specifically women's self-defense stuff? Do you believe in that, or is it just what's your view on like women's separatist training versus
No,
like
I
other
don't.
training?
You know, I'm not against it. I feel like it's great. I'm all for empowering people, but like for me, I'm like, why do I like did all this stuff not being in girls' classes, now I don't want a girls' class.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't have girls' classes. If there was a girl that wanted to teach a girls' class at my school, she's more than welcome to. Right? But I'm not going to just teach one.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I like, I'm like, everyone in here should be cool enough to be around everyone else. And if you're not, then you should probably not be here.
Balance.
Right? That's, you know, it's like, we don't need like, to have girls not around guys so that they don't have to be on good behavior.
Okay. Yeah. No.
Right? It's just like everyone just be on good behavior.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And, you know, but I think that, like, I do girls and gis. I'm very
Sure.
supportive of that. It's not that I'm against doing it, but it's like, again, it's like a girl gym owner teaching all the classes. It just seems like another class for me to teach.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, I'm already here teaching the classes. Girls can be in any of the classes, so just try to do that way. But I think it's good that it's a good way to get like people who are afraid to be in the gym, right? But I like my skill. I feel like, dude, we're not like a macho gym, so I don't see that as a barrier. Whereas like a gym with like mostly guys, then they feel like they need to like create this thing. It's like, well, our gym, I just don't have that vibe or something.
Right.
Right? Where it's like it would be a necessity, but I totally get why people do it, and I get why women would want that. I believe in self-defense technically, but not fully.
In what sense? Like.
It's and I know not probably most 99% of people don't agree with me, but well, I've been around a lot of jiu-jitsu guys, and it's like no amount of jiu-jitsu that I can learn will defend me against those guys.
Sure. No, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Right? So it's just like, it's like not in an era, and it's like I think it's that same thing where it's like, well, one day if I just do enough, I'll be able to win. No, untrue.
Yeah.
That's not true, right? If you tell, it's, you know, there are tactics, there are techniques of, I think, self-defense that people can use. It's just, for me, it's not really what I'm trying to teach people, and I think I almost shy away from the responsibility of telling someone, like, if you learn this, you're going to be safe, because I don't really believe that.
Sure.
Right? I think it's very hard, and people like look at me like I'm crazy when I say that. And like someone's like, oh, now you can beat up, you can feel safe all the time. It's like, that is not true. That's not true. I feel jiu-jitsu taught me that it's like you are very vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You are very, very vulnerable. And doing it, it's like I put myself in those situations to truly test those situations. And it's like those are situations that I adamantly want to avoid.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I learned. And as I get older and as I have injuries, it's like I am unwilling to risk myself unless absolutely necessary. Right? And like the people that come in and want to learn a self-defense seminar, it's like save your money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because it's not going to help you. The seminar is not going to help you.
That's really interesting to hear you say that, because actually that's something that, like, I was having this conversation with somebody earlier, like jiu-jitsu has made me much less likely to ever want to be in a street fight or self-defense altercation. It's like you're so vulnerable. The human body is so subject to injury and death, and like.
No, thank you.
Right. Yeah,
I mean, I've had scenarios like I have like an issue, like someone in my building, like I'm in a condo building and there's like a sketch ball in there and he has like sketchy people and like someone following me in this little hallway, and I am like, holy fucking God. Because I know exactly what can happen in a fucking hallway with someone next to you.
Yeah.
Right? And you have a door that you gotta get unlocked. It's like, and I'm trying to explain to the people and they're like, but you know how to defend. Fuck you. Fuck you. You know, and I don't want some sketchy tweaker following me down a hallway.
Yeah.
Right? No fucking thank you. Because I know I'm very well versed in all the things that could go wrong here.
Right.
Right? And I'm not in you know, it's like, I'm more of like avoidance. Sheer avoidance, right? You know, and then I started taking gun classes.
Sure.
Right? And that doesn't make me feel comfortable. It's just like, I think someone gave me this book called The Gift of Fear.
Oh yeah.
Right? Dude, I believe in that.
Yep.
I believe in that.
Awareness,
when you feel sketched out, believe in that and get the fuck away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the best self-defense.
Yep.
Because if you're hands on someone, dude, God help you.
Things have gone sideways. Seriously.
You're too deep. You're too deep. You've lost. Right? You lost the win of self-defense.
Right.
Right? And then a lot of it is like, you know, I think jiu-jitsu is a good self-defense in that it gives people community. I think that's a great, you know, can get you out of some bad situations because you have like good people around you.
Yep.
Right? Like all these extraneous things for self-defense. But you know, it's kind of like the transgender thing. Like you think like, girls aren't going to be guys in most sports.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you say like, okay, trans guy, it's not fair. Right? And there's that argument. I would agree.
Yeah.
Right? There are biological differences. Right? So then it confuses me because I think many people like had that argument with me, but then they kind of act like I should be able to beat guys in jiu-jitsu. So what the fuck? What the fuck? Because you just argue with me that like guys shouldn't be competing against girls, but now you're telling me that I should be able to hang with you in jiu-jitsu. So what the fuck?
Right.
I am gonna have the cohesive thing and say no, girls and jiu-jitsu guys. It's like there's a difference, and it's like there are lots of people who come in here that I'm not gonna beat.
Sure.
Right? As a girl, even when I was in the top shape. Right? There's a lot of guys that come into your gym as a guy that you're not going to beat.
Right. Oh yeah.
Right? And like as a girl, it's like even like to put that up like that's an achievable goal. It's not. It's not. Right?
No, I agree with you. Yeah.
And like I think people like want to believe in jiu-jitsu so badly that they want to believe that it is. Right? I've totally had so many guys like, oh, but you could choke them out, you could do this, and it's like you're just like make believing.
Right.
Are you like make believing why? Right? Like I'm like what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, that like has been really like kind of a hard thing. I do believe like, oh, you know, some rando dude tried to attack me, I would probably be better equipped than the average rando lady.
Sure.
Right? True, I agree with that. But it's like, do I feel confident in a self-defense situation? No.
Yeah, I think that's because there's a delineation there. I agree with you. It's like, so if jiu-jitsu gave somebody they were just more focused on the idea of self-defense, and so they were more aware, that would be a good thing. Or if they felt confident, they were holding themselves in a more confident way, so they were less likely to be a victim. Cool, that's an awesome thing. And if it really came down to a nightmare scenario and somebody broke into their house at midnight and they found themselves pushed onto their back, like, could they maybe employ jiu-jitsu and be better prepared than not? Yeah, sure, that would help them. But on the other side of that, like, self-defense can mean a lot of different things too. I think this is one of the challenges to like putting together a self-defense scenario, because it could be, you know, a violent attack involving anything up to and including death. It could just be somebody gets too drunk at a family barbecue and it's like causing some problems. You can't approach those situations.
What's this whole spectrum of self-defense, right?
Right.
But I think like for, if you say like billing like women's self-defense, I think like people know what the thought is there.
Yeah.
Right?
Essay or that sort of thing.
Someone's holding you down, you're on a date gone wrong, someone's holding you down, and the average co-ed girl learning a couple classes, I don't know. Depends, are you dating some scrawny loser or someone else, you know? There's a lot of factors.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fucking factors, you know? Is it some dude with a hammer that's trying to hit you over the head? What the fuck? I don't know how to defend against that.
Yeah, wouldn't pull guard.
What do you do? Yeah, you know? So it's like, you know, and then being in fights and like MMA and stuff, it's like the best self-defense is to stay away.
Sure.
Right? That's what, you know, have enough friends to be able to like not get in bad relationships, have enough self-worth to try and like be able to extricate yourself if you are. Like a lot of, I think more is a mental thing.
Yeah.
Truly. Right? And like, then I like had like, you know, the thing where you can't say no to people enrolling in jiu-jitsu, completely contrary to self-defense.
Sure, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Totally, like if you're telling me you teach self-defense and then in your same breath, the like, can't say no to the black belt, can't do that, stop talking.
Right.
Stop talking, right? Because we're missing the boat here, right? So it's like, I think like sport jiu-jitsu is an avenue to teach people how to be fitter, how to be more confident, how to learn some techniques to help leverage people off of them, but I would never want to bill it as self-defense in this weird way, right?
Sure.
It's almost like for me, I think like it's just like I'm not wanting the culpability of like telling someone like, hey, you could go save yourself. Go for it. Right. Because it's like, dude, everyone needs to have a healthy respect for danger.
For violence and
for danger and for the propensity of like, there are people out there that like you don't want to deal with. Right? Stay the fuck away from them.
Yeah.
Right? And like there are scenarios where it's like, dude, I don't want to be wrestling anyone. I don't want to be jiu-jitsuing I don't want that person touching me.
Yeah, I think,
right?
Like even MMA is not a complete stand-in for it, but I think a lot of people have done sport jiu-jitsu for a while, but they don't have an understanding of what the savagery of an actual street fighter, all these
things that a street fight, like all the things that could happen.
Right?
And the true violence of some people. Right?
Yeah. No, I would agree with that.
The level one person is going to take something is probably radically different than another person's top level.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's just like, dude, I don't want any part of that. Right? Like, that's what I, like, self-defense wise, it's like, dude, I don't want any part of that.
Sure.
I think start like with the little kids. It's like, I told them, I'm like, when you see trouble, stop like moving towards it and move away from it.
Yeah.
Any kind of trouble.
That's self-defense.
Right? When we're in here and one kid's getting in trouble, don't start talking and asking you, mind your own business and stay away from the trouble.
Sure.
Right? That's those are kind of like way more my speed of self-defense.
I agree with that.
You know, but true. I mean, I will say though. I mean, there are like techniques in jiu-jitsu that I think could help people, but I stay away from saying I teach self-defense.
That's fair. You know, I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Well, okay, and then as a final question here, what has or what does jiu-jitsu give you? What are the benefits you see yourself as reaping from that, and just pursuing jiu-jitsu? You know, being on the mats. What does it give you?
Oh, I would say for me, jiu-jitsu gave me like the opportunity and framework to learn everything I've learned about myself. Right? You know, from like how to be in shape, how to work hard at a goal, how to do the like actual techniques of jiu-jitsu. Right? I think that's like very like only the surface. Right? I think for me, it's like all the other things you learn about yourself. right? To me, that's the more important thing of jiu-jitsu. And that's where I think the belts aren't that important.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have all this tech, like really like, I believe like when you get the black belt now, you really have the true understanding of like the full breadth of like knowledge of jiu-jitsu to start learning like your own jiu-jitsu. Right? Technically as jiu-jitsu. That's
Sure.
what I would say, like up to black belt, okay, you have now the tools to actually do jiu-jitsu. Right? Beyond that, I think it's a framework for you to have self-discovery. Right? Truly. Like, so for someone who is going to engage with jiu-jitsu for a long time. Right?
Yeah.
Or in a meaningful way. Right? I think those are the more important things that someone can garner from jiu-jitsu. Self-control,
Yeah.
right? Goal setting, problem solving, emotion management,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Creating a strategy and sticking to it,
Sure.
right? I think like things that maybe people haven't, working under pressure, right? A lot of just like these things that like maybe in your life, if you don't have those opportunities, it's a good opportunity. It presents those opportunities for you to work under pressure, under duress, and to have to do something that you don't have to do, something that sucks, and keep doing it, right? That's a whole,
To push yourself.
to push yourself through something that's like, you don't have to do this,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Most people don't have to do it. They do it willingly, right? They pay to do it.
Yeah. No, I like that. I think those are all things you could definitely draw from it. Okay, Cindy, this
What
has been
else?
so
Is
fun.
that it?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's it.
perfect.
Unless you want to, I don't want to cut
No,
you
did
off.
I pass the test?
Yes,
Everything?
flying colors.
Okay.
No, this has been a lot of fun. Looking forward to seeing the technique you're going to be showing us and just
Okay,
thank you.
perfect.
All right.
Awesome.